Hey, it's Steph, and welcome to the Straight Up with Steph podcast, where we have real discussions around health and life and just trying to be better at both. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Straight Up with Steph. I'm really excited about today's podcast. Part of the reason why I created this podcast was really for inspiration. I hear a lot from dental clinicians who maybe have an idea for something, or they want to start their own business, or they want to start speaking, or just doing something different outside of the op. And with this podcast, some of my guests have demonstrated exactly how to do that. They've become speakers, they've become writers, they've started their own business literally from scratch with no business knowledge. So you don't have to know everything. You just have to have an idea and a passion for something to create something new. My guest today is someone who has created a business, a very big and successful business, literally from nothing. Her name's Sarah. She is the founder and CEO of CE Zoom. She is an example of someone who saw a need for something for easily accessing virtual CE and also tracking CE. But at the time, there wasn't anything like that available. And she created it. She had no business experience, no marketing experience. She didn't know anything about development, a website, anything. And just look what she's created. It's very uncommon, I would think, for anyone to have not heard about CE Zoom. And her story is really inspiring because she has experienced multiple setbacks that she talks about today and how she overcame those, and just the importance when you're an entrepreneur or starting something new of just keeping your vision in mind and not giving up. Throughout the episode, you're going to hear her drop these little pearls of advice for people who are thinking about starting something new, and her story of how she did just that. I hope you enjoy today's episode with Sarah. Hey, Sarah. Oh my gosh, I've been really looking forward to this podcast. Thank you for coming today.
You bet. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about your journey in business, and I know my listeners will be too. You're a dental hygienist. You've been a hygienist for a while, but you started CE Zoom literally from nothing with no business experience. So how did you, like, what was the inspiration of creating something like that? Was there a personal story that kind of drove you?
Yeah, I do have a personal story. It's a little long, so I'll try and shorten it as much as I can because it is out there if you really want to hear the whole thing. But essentially, I mean, I went to dental hygiene school. I had been a dental assistant for about 6 years. And then I was like, oh man, I just want to be a stay-at-home mom and only work a couple of days a week, but I accidentally saw one of the hygienist paychecks and didn't realize like the difference in pay. And this is probably not what your listeners want to hear, but that's literally what my motivation was. I wanted to be a hygienist. So I went and did that, did hygiene school. And then I practiced dental hygiene for about, I don't even know how long I did it for, maybe 15 years.
Okay.
But I did start CE Zoom while I was still working. I think I worked for about 3 or 4 years while I was building the business. But the reason I created it is I thought that my boss in my office was tracking all my CE and keeping me updated and making sure that I stayed compliant. And turns out they weren't. And I realized I was like 9 months pregnant. Well, okay, I was probably like 7 or 8 months pregnant with my second daughter. And I didn't realize I had only done CPR and I had 45 credit hours I had to get to renew my license within the next 5 months. And I was about to have a baby. And this was back in 2009, whenever it was really hard to find CE. So I spent a lot of time and a lot of money attending the NM. No, actually, it was ADHA was happening in Albuquerque, New Mexico that year, which was close to me, luckily, because
Okay.
I was able to attend that and I got 16 hours in live, which I needed 15. So that was perfect. Then I was able to get all the rest of my CE online. But while I was at that event, really pregnant, and I don't know if your instructors did this to you, but they always made us feel like you are now a professional. So you must dress professional at these things. So I was in like heels, a skirt, not super thrilled to be there, to be honest. I was just trying to get through it so I could go have my baby and know that I was going to be able to renew my license. And I walked through the exhibit hall. I had all my exhibitor swag sitting on my arms, but I'm holding that piece of paper that said I went and that said that I got these hours of CE because I didn't want to lose it in my bag. So I was leaving the conference to head home And I opened the door and the wind took my certificate sailing. And I just remember sitting, it felt like an eternity sitting there watching it fly through the wind. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I have to go get that. This is going to be so embarrassing. Luckily, I don't know anyone. So I like threw all my stuff down, kicked off my heels, and I sprinted after this stupid piece of paper. And I couldn't get it. So I did that like stomp thing where you have to like stomp, I was trying to get it, got it, threw it in my bag. I did not look up. I don't know if any of you out there saw me if you were in attendance that year. Grabbed my stuff and I got in my car, and it's a 3-hour drive home. And so I'm driving home and I was just like, why is this still on paper? Seriously, like this is my entire license in this stupid piece of paper. Yeah. And that was kind of where it ended. I went home. I left that thing in my glove box because I am not organized. I was like, I'm going to lose it. I'm going to leave it right here. I know where it's at. So I got my notice in the mail to go renew my license and grabbed it out of the glove box, laid all my CE certificates out. Cause at that point I had done like a bunch of stuff on dentalcare.com and like other little online resources to get all the rest of my CE that I had to have. And I laid it all out on my table, and New Mexico has a dinosaur system. So it takes forever to upload everything. And I think in the meantime, I had to go feed my baby or something. And I came back to chocolate milk spilt all over all of my papers. And the one paper I really, really needed that I couldn't just find in my files online was at a conference, and it was destroyed. I couldn't read it. It was not legible. And I just remember sitting there looking up and going, am I not supposed to do this? Like, is this my sign? Am I supposed to quit hygiene? Like, maybe I'm supposed to be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I don't know. I felt like it was a sign, but I pretty much knew what courses I'd taken, but I wasn't exactly sure of the presenters' names or whatever. So I just kind of made it up, and it passed my audit.
It's like so much drama for one piece of paper.
Yeah. And so anyway, like a couple months later, I was standing in my brother's kitchen and he mentioned his business partners build apps. And I had looked, like I was like, there's got to be something. Somebody has to have something. And I think Minnesota Dental Association was the only app out there. And that didn't work for me. I was not in Minnesota and I wasn't a dentist. So
and this was in 2009?
This was 2009.
Yeah, you would think at that time that there would be more options. Yeah.
Something. Well, actually, by this time, it was 2010.
Okay.
Still, you would think.
Yeah.
And so my brother made that comment, and I was like, I have the best idea. And he was like, no, you don't. Apps don't make money. Like, and it was when Candy Crush was really popular. And I was like, but Candy Crush? And he's all, yeah, they have millions of users. And I'm like, well, I don't know. So I went behind his back, went around him and built it without him knowing. And so that's how came about.
Do you feel like that, getting that comment or feedback from him kind of spurred you? Because I'm the type of person that it's like, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm going to do it, Well,
here's the best part, and I hope he doesn't watch this. He is now my producer. He produces all my webinars. So I pay him to work. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a terrible idea. Do you still think that? I mean, after
I'm paying you now.
Yeah. I mean, he's fine. But it was definitely a driving force. And along with all of my family and friends, I really the only person, 2 people supported me. My mom, of course, she's like, you can do anything,
Yeah.
And then one of my nephews randomly was like, yeah, that's cool. But nobody else, because it didn't make sense, because it didn't exist. Like what I was trying to build, I couldn't even explain it to anybody because it was all up here. And I'm like, I was trying to tell, I have a brother that's a physical therapist. I'm like, look, you have to get CE. He's all, oh yeah, we're supposed to get CE, but nobody really gets it, right? I'm like, actually, yes.
I'm like, yeah.
And just anybody that kind of understood it was just negative. They were like, I don't think it's a good idea. And I understand where they're coming from, because I look back and had I actually known what it was going to take to do this, there's no way in hell I would have done it, because it's all the trials that we faced and Kat and I, my business partner, she joined me about a year into it. We both at some point have quit 4 or 5 times and just luckily we had each other and we were able to
Yeah.
pivot and change and like keep going. But it's not easy. That's for sure.
Well, and I experienced that too when I first started or had this idea, and it was like friends and family, and they're coming from a good place, right? They're trying to protect you. They're like, "You have a great job as a hygienist, just keep doing that." And I'm like, "Yeah, but this is what I want to do, you know?" And so it's just like I get where they're coming from, but also at that time you're so fragile and like so vulnerable that you don't need it, you know? So I actually had to
Yeah.
distance myself from some people for a little bit, just so that I could focus. But
Oh,
how did you
yeah.
figure out, the technical side of it? Just like building the platform?
Well, see, and I think that's why the idea came to me when my brother said that, because I'm like, oh, well, that's how you do it. Well, I started with his business partners, but also they didn't understand it because they were like, ooh,
Mm,
education, that's like that's a hot spot in the world right now. Like everybody's wanting to build apps for education. I'm like, it's not exactly education though. Like they didn't understand what I was trying to do. Because I was
yeah,
just trying to make CE more black and white and simple for everybody. And it
like
wasn't,
access, like you're
yeah,
trying
it
to
wasn't
yeah,
like college, like you're going
yeah,
to go to dental hygiene school, and that's how they took it. So it was really hard to like work with them. And they had a problem. I won't say it was like a big deal. They like just kind of disappeared. Like something that happened in their own company. And I was just left at like nothing. So
mm,
I sat around for about 3 more months and then my business partner came along. So, and she was like, hey, remember that thing you were building? I'm really bored and I need something to do. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And so we actually had, I don't even know how we found our developers. They're out of Phoenix. Um, it was just through a lot of networking, trying to, because
yeah.
we didn't know. I mean, it's a lot easier nowadays to find dev, but at that time it was like, what is that? I didn't even know like the words, like who I was looking for, you know?
Well, and that's when you don't have like, it just blows my mind what you've created with no business experience, because you literally you don't even know what you don't know yet, you know, and you don't know the words for things, but you figure it out. So your business partner, came along, you said about a year into it. How did you guys decide or how did you like split up, responsibilities between the two of you?
Um, so at first it was more like we were just trying to figure out how we were going to put, because CE Zoom, we started as a state specific CE tracker. So we had to read through all 50 states' rules and regs several times
Oh my God.
to understand them enough to build a program that would support tracking it. And so her and I both, like, I would read through the states and I'd write all my notes. She'd read through them, write her notes. I'd read through them again. Every time we read through them, even to this day, we still find new things because it is in all 50 states. It is so ridiculous how they try and tell you what you're supposed to do. Like it should be black and white, but they don't make it that way. They make it
Yeah.
very complicated.
And they change, I
Um,
bet, a lot too, right? And so you have to
oh,
like stay on top of that.
we do. And we have a whole team. That is their job. They attend all the board meetings, that we know what's coming up, like coming down the pipeline. So we're prepared whenever anything changes. But I mean, there's still things we miss, which is wild because I don't know how. Um, but we do. We're human, maybe. But for the most part, it's like we are on top of it. So, but Kat and I, that was how we started at first. And she was more in charge of the money. I was in charge of like getting us out there, getting customers, you know. But it's funny because now we've kind of morphed differently just through experiences. I mean, we've we've been through it. I mean, I don't know how much detail you want me to get into, but now my responsibility is I run the entire company, all of it.
Mhm.
She runs our dev teams because we have 2 dev teams now. So
Okay.
she's by trade, she's a hygienist, but she is literally an engineer. She can build anything. So that's how her brain works. It's very linear, I guess, but she's very pay attention to detail. Like I can't do what she does. I don't have
Yeah.
that. I don't have that willpower to like focus. I am
Yeah.
very much the visionary and idea person and running the team and doing marketing I don't have any clue about marketing. I hire people for that, but um, yeah, like I just try and make sure everybody's doing their job. Like
The
That's,
big picture type thing.
yeah.
With marketing, I mean, that's huge because it's like you can have a great product, but if no one knows about it, then who cares? So how
Right.
did you I would assume that well, you just said you don't have marketing experience. So when you built something like this that's new, that there wasn't other people doing it, it's really hard to market a brand new idea. So how did you guys go about doing that?
So, okay, there's two things we did. So one of them was, you all know well, you probably, maybe you don't. Jocelyn Sewell, Josie Sewell, I don't know what she goes by in the professional world. Her and I went to dental hygiene school together. We're actually third cousins. Our great grandmas are sisters. We learned that
Oh,
while we were in dental hygiene school.
that's cool.
But we both kind of expanded our wings from hygiene. And she did it before I did. And I remember when I was about to launch, I called her and was like, how do I tell people about this? Like, give me some advice. And she's like, you need to go to Career Fusion, period. Like, don't even question it. If you'll get 10 years of networking in 1 week.
Mm,
At that point, I didn't even know what networking meant.
yeah.
Truly, I was like, okay, cool. We were on a very tight budget because we had no funding. We bootstrapped the entire program.
Oh,
And this thing cost us about $10,000 to go, which was a
it's a lot.
lot.
Yeah.
But we did it. We took the leap and we went. And now it's known as the RDH Evolution,
Mhm.
which is great. And I'm fully in support of it. It's amazing. I wish Career Fusion was still around, but the founder has passed away, and it's just it's really hard to keep going. So
Yeah.
RDH Evolution took over. But I think, anyway, I'm probably misquoting people, and I'm so sorry if I'm telling the story wrong. But
Oh, it's
that,
okay. It's all right. We'll get corrected if we're wrong. I think it's like
yeah,
modeled after Career Fusion. I don't know if there's like a professional relationship there, but I have had people
probably
on the
not.
podcast talk about okay. I've had people on the podcast, more than one person actually mention Career Fusion. So I'm just like, dang, I wish it was like still going on, you know?
It was incredible. And I think what I loved about it is when we went, it was like a sorority. Going to this thing, now we've got 100 hygienists that are our number one fan,
Mm.
even though they don't even know us. We are part of this group. And so when we launched our program at RDH Under One Roof in 2015, I think it was 2014, I can't really remember. All of those people from Career Fusion would come up to our booth acting like they didn't know us while people are around and be like, tell me about this. This is amazing. Like,
Oh, that's
I want to hear
awesome.
more. Oh my gosh, the industry has needed this forever. Like it worked. Truly worked. Okay. So that was like number one. So support of a hygiene community is 1,000% necessary to do something like this. Because if we
Yeah.
didn't have that, we wouldn't have made it out of the gate, really, I don't think. Number two is the way, and this was on accident. We didn't do this on purpose. This is just how we built the system. But like when we let companies use us, that use the program to run their own events. I'll use Crest and Oral-B for an example. They've used us for years. The whole verification process, the surveys, the certificates, they're all done in CE Zoom, and everybody has to create their own account. So now we've got everybody's information. And we're not the ones advertising. It's Crest and Oral-B or Voco or anybody else that's offering their CE through CE Zoom. They're advertising for us
Mm.
just simply because we collect that information and create accounts, and that's how they manage their CE. We didn't set that up with that in mind, thinking that's what we would do. It's just we knew they needed to have an account to be able to take their survey, take their testing, keep their certificates, like the process. And we've lost customers over that because they didn't like that. But we didn't advertise for the first until 2020. We never placed an ad because we didn't have
Wow.
to, which was
Wow.
very, very lucky. That was a lucky thing that we did.
I would assume that you would saw a dramatic increase in people using CE Zoom over COVID.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet that was huge.
That's what put us on a map for sure.
Okay.
I think we went from 40,000 users and we're up to about 240,000 now. And that jump happened, like most of that jump happened, right? Those first 2 months of COVID.
Holy cow.
It
Yeah,
just
because COVID.
validated us.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so blown away that you created something that now it's like people need it. It's almost like a camera on your phone. It's like we
Hmm.
never thought we needed a camera on our phone, but like we can't live without it now. And it's almost the same with this. Like you created something that people had no idea that they even needed. It's pretty amazing, Sarah.
Well, and thank you. And here's the crazy part is it's almost like we created it for COVID, not really, but like
Yeah.
when COVID hit, we were one of the only companies ready to go. We had already built this completely automated, hands-free virtual program. And when COVID hit, like we weren't offering our own CE at that time. We were offering everybody else's. Like we were just allowing companies to use the platform to manage everything. Because when you've got 100 attendees, that's a lot to like get their surveys, get their certificates, get their
Yeah.
testing, all of that. So that's what we were doing. And we were having to refund people all, like it was terrifying, like Ticketmaster, like that type of thing, because we were collecting processing fees, which didn't make us a lot of money, but we were having to refund everything. And I was like, we're gonna tank, we're gonna sink, we're not gonna make it. And then my boyfriend was like, well, you already have the whole system. He's like, offer your own, do it virtually. And so I remember we were going down to go fishing. It's like a 3-hour drive. In that 3-hour drive, I planned an entire conference with my 5 closest speaker friends that I knew at the time and was like, hey, I don't know if this is going to do anything good, but you're out of a job right now. So are we. Like, let's just try and do this virtual conference because people still have to get CE. The boards have already
Yeah.
said it. They don't care. You still have to get your CE.
Yeah.
And so we did it. I planned it in about 3 hours. We launched it the next day. And within 7 days, it was sold out at 5,000 people.
The next day, dude. That's
Oh, well,
crazy.
7 days. It took 7 days and it was
Well,
sold
but you
out.
launched it the next
Oh
day.
yeah,
After,
because CE
oh
Zoom
my
was designed.
God.
Like all I had to do was put it in. It was built
Yeah.
for this. I didn't
Yeah.
even. And that's when my brother comes in, the one that didn't believe in me, because now he's out of a job, movie
He's like,
producer, right?
so. Yeah.
And I'm
Oh,
like,
okay.
hey, well, we got 5,000 people. He's all shut it down. Like, do not allow any more people to register. Like, you're not going to find a platform that can support that. And because at the time, nothing was really good in the webinar
Mm.
space. And he's the one that came in and saved the day there. And he produced all our webinars. And anyway, it like
So
worked out perfect.
that's how you doing your own CE started, was COVID.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. That's awesome.
But what's crazier about that is when I had the vision of CE Zoom, it was that. Like, I wanted to be able to hand every single course you had to have according to your state on a silver platter and say, here you go. This is all you have to take. Here's your timeline. Go for it.
Yeah.
And we would have never got full circle with my idea because I don't know if we'd have ever offered our own CE because we had a lot of companies thinking that'd make us competition to
Oh,
them,
okay.
which
Okay.
was a little tricky at first. But I'm like, you all are canceling. We have to. And
Yeah,
so
like
it
people need
worked.
their courses. You offer CE, but then you do tracking for people. Are those kind of like two different services that you offer, or is it kind of all bundled into one?
Well, that's where we confuse people like crazy. And this is something I'm trying to fix as like going forward because it is confusing. We do offer, like for other companies, we allow them to partner with us and use our accreditation, or we're AGD PACE certified. It's not
Hmm.
called accreditation, so I'm sorry. We're AGD PACE certified to give CE, offer CE. So we allow a joint providership with companies. I mean, we have to vet their speakers. We have to do the whole process still. And then we have a program that runs it for them because there's a lot that goes into offering CE that I don't think people realize. There's just so much paperwork and so much you have to report to those accreditation bodies. And then, so it's a whole separate company. And we allow people to market to some of our users, depending if they've subscribed to that or not.
Hmm.
But that's a whole separate company. And then for the professional, we track their CE. We offer every single course they have to renew their license, literally on a silver platter, which was my vision. And then for like DSOs, We help them keep track of their entire company and make sure that all their dentists, hygienists, assistants, anybody licensed is in compliance with their license so they don't lose it. Just a nice benefit that a lot of our DSOs give to their hygienists and dentists and assistants. So that's actually a whole nother company because it's different, and it's more office compliance along with all their CE compliance. And then we work with regulating bodies, and they use the program, the tracker, to audit professionals. So it's a whole circle. We do literally everything CE.
Did you have any idea when you first had this thought that your business would turn into what it is today?
Oh, not at all. No.
Yeah.
Not a chance. I mean, it's interesting though, because I did find our business plan that I wrote in 2014, and it literally says exactly what I just did. And what's crazy is there's so many times we just quit and we like dropped it and pivoted and went a different route and then slowly came back. It was weird. It's weird, but line for line, my business plan is exactly where we are today.
I mean, that's pretty cool. So speaking of challenges, a lot of times in business, I'm finding that like we hit a wall, like some big thing that's like, okay, should I just stop? Or, maybe I'm not supposed to do this. Did you have a moment like that where it like seemed like a brick wall that you should stop, but then maybe turned into a growth opportunity?
Oh, absolutely. Several.
Can I have an example?
Okay. For instance, ADA launched a tracker. ADHA did too, but theirs didn't scare me as much because it wasn't like ours at all.
This was after you launched yours, I'm assuming. Okay.
Oh yeah. We were already in business, already doing stuff, but we were still growing. But when ADA launched theirs or announced it, I was like, we're done. Like we can't compete with the ADA. There's no way. We're already struggling to get these dentists to listen and understand, because at that point I had visited probably, I think, 26 dental boards trying to explain what we have built to help them help the professionals. And they just look at me like I was crazy. Truly. Like I would be up there and they'd be like, literally, there's no way you've done this. I'm like, look, I'm like showing you the program.
It's right here.
They didn't believe me. So hearing that the ADA was launching a CE tracker, I was like, I don't think we can compete, whatever. So we pivoted and went into, that's when we really focused on helping companies run CE. We're like, well, if we can't compete with the tracker, we can at least do it for a hygienist. We'll do this. But then the ADA launched their tracker, and it's not a tracker. It's just like everybody else's. It tallies your CE and stores it. It's not physically tracking. Like if you're in California and you take a infection control course that's a AGD PACE approved, it doesn't count for your state. And their trackers aren't going to tell you that. It's going to say, good job, you took an infection control course. You're good to go. You're not.
Okay.
Right? Like, so there's lots of states, probably almost half of them have something weird like that a lot of people don't even know. So they're just trusting in this tracker, but it's not actually tracking.
And that's why you put so much effort into, like you said, you have a whole team that like focuses on making sure compliance is up and so everything's like really accurate.
Right. Yeah. So like we pivoted for a while, but then we were like, oh no, we've still got it. We're good.
Yeah.
That's
awesome.
Example.
Okay. I'm sure that there's more. But every time I like run into a challenge or I'm feeling like I want to give up or whatever, I'm like, okay, this is literally a growth opportunity. Like there's something here for me to learn, which is annoying because sometimes you just want to be mad about it or whatever. But it always turns into something that you learn from. So,
well, and I'll say something really quick. I joined a group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. If you're able to join something like that, I highly recommend it. If you're not quite making $1 million a year in revenue, it's okay. They've got accelerator programs there that I started in, and it like helped me immensely. But one thing they told me or taught us is every business owner is going to hit a wall. If you don't, especially if it's something like CE Zoom, we pulled it out of thin air, literally didn't exist, and we built something just to fix a need that I had nothing to compare it to at the time. You're going to hit lots of brick walls. But if you just quit, then that's it. You've lost everything. There's no reason to quit. There really isn't. You can always pivot. Your idea was good for a reason for you to like start it. It's those people that quit that are like, one day someone's going to come out and have something exactly the same, but maybe a little better. And you're going to be so mad at yourself that you didn't
Yeah.
just figure it out. Like there's a reason you're hitting that wall, you know?
Yeah, and figure it out and get past it. I know I've read a lot of like, entrepreneur books and stuff like that because I was like you, I had no idea how to like run a business when I started. And every single one is like number one piece of advice, do not quit. Like every time you want to. So I remember that every time I don't really want to quit anymore, but there for the first couple of years
Oh
it
yeah.
was touch and go,
Well, even oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. It was
It's
a good
okay.
one too. Dang it.
It happens to
If
me
I
every
remember
day.
it, I will tell you.
No, that's fine. Well, speaking of entrepreneurship, what is your favorite part about being a business owner?
Oh, I love the flexibility.
Yeah. I
Like
same. Yes. Yeah.
I have 3 kids, a single mom, and I love that I can literally be there for them always. I mean, that was the whole reason that's why I was starting with. I have ADHD, if you haven't noticed, like super bad. But that's what, like the beginning of this podcast, I was saying that's why I went into hygiene because I wanted to be a mom. That was my goal.
Yeah.
Same with this. Like I started this business because I'm like, ooh, I can work from home and be there for them. And, turns out like the first, 6 years, I didn't get to be home a lot. I spent every waking moment I had hitting conferences, networking, trying to meet as many people as I could. But now it is paying off and they're all teenagers. I have one graduating this year and I can be here whenever they need me. And then they just know like mom has to work too,
Yeah.
so that's my favorite part of owning my own business. And I get to choose what I make in the end. Like the harder I work, the more opportunities I come up with, the more I can pay myself.
Yeah. And everything is under your control. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
directing everything. If you want to take a break, fine. If you want to push through and make some more money or make some more contacts, do it. That's my favorite part too, is the flexibility. It's not easy. I wouldn't say it's easy being an entrepreneur. But the biggest benefit is that flexibility for sure.
Yeah. Oh, it's definitely not for the weak. I'll say that.
No, no, you have to be, stubborn and persistent and really just believe in what you're doing. How do you balance everything? Because I know you've got a family with kids and stuff, and I would imagine even though you have flexibility, I'm sure that you work a lot. So how do you balance it all?
I wouldn't say I'm the best at it, to be
Okay.
honest. But I did for a while make a rule that after 5 p.m., I was not allowed to look at my phone, my email, nothing, especially if my kids were with me. Which that's the only perk to divorce, really, is I don't get my kids all the time. So when I don't have them, that's when I really hammer down and work my butt off. But when I do
Yeah.
have them, they're the priority. I did pretty good at that for a while. Now they're older, so I don't really have to. They're like gone in sports and playing and stuff, so I don't really have to do that as much. But I do make sure though that I love to go fishing. We go at least once a month to Florida to down there to go try. I'm going to catch a billfish. I don't even care what kind. One day.
I don't even know what that is. Is that a
It's
big
like a
one?
marlin. They've got that big long
Oh,
nose. Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
That's
Okay.
my goal. Once I do that, then I think I can take a break from fishing for a while. But one day I'm gonna catch one
So
of
you're into the big fish fishing, not just
those.
like dinking around with a pole.
Oh no, yeah. Like
Okay.
I like to fish, like go offshore and the ocean is amazing. And actually, I actually come up with a lot of ideas while I'm out there.
I
My
bet.
my boyfriend he owns his own business too, so we always have like it's totally opposite though. I'm just gonna say this. So this is some advice too. Like depending on like I have a tech company, right? So all my stuff can be done virtually. I can work from anywhere, which is awesome. If you're gonna
Hmm.
open any business and you get to choose, pick that. he owns a steel fabrication company, and they like build those big, huge warehouses, right? So he has to be at work, but like his processes are completely different than mine, right? And you just can't mix that. But I'm just saying, like, it's a different world. So like if you're taking advice from like your dad who owns a carpet company and you're starting a tech company,
Yeah.
it doesn't even, you cannot listen to each other because you're not even
Yeah.
close in the same ballpark. It's a totally different world. Just saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, this is something I learned, like, don't, I mean, obviously you can listen to people trying to give you advice. Whether or not you take it is a different story, right? But it's like, unless that person is doing something you want to be doing or is somewhere you want to be, like, really just be careful on if you take their advice or not, you know? And I learned that the hard way at the beginning. I was like, why did I listen to them? Like, they're not doing what I want to do, you know?
And that's what EO teaches you too, which is
Hmm.
great. Like they teach you, I feel like I'm promoting them. I'm not even part of EO anymore. It just helped me really a lot in
Well,
the
it helped you.
beginning.
And if somebody, because one of my question is what your advice is for people who want to do this or be an entrepreneur. So I think this is a great resource for them.
Yeah, because that's what they teach you. Instead of like telling someone what to do, you
Hmm.
just experience share. Like, hey, you're struggling with finding a great marketing person, or you need to like fire an employee or something because they're just not a good fit. And this is what happened to me when I did it. Not saying here's what you need to do, because that
Yeah.
never works. They
Yeah.
do not know your business at all. They just know their business and how they handled it. But um, I mean, I give a lot of advice to people, but I always try and say, just this is what happened to me. Like, if you don't
Yeah.
take my advice, I do not care. I'm
Yeah.
just,
Like, take it or leave it.
yeah. So
Yeah.
be very careful who you listen to, because they could ruin your entire business, honestly,
Well, they
if you take
could,
the wrong
especially at the
advice.
beginning, because I think of myself, I was so vulnerable and I didn't know anything. And I assumed everyone knew so much more than me. And that I assumed that they had my best interests in mind. Right. And you kind of learn that the hard way that that's not true. So I think that's great advice. Just really listen to people, but be mindful on what action you take, you know?
Well, and I do have some like a experience share in that category. So forever I would discredit myself a lot because I'm like, I'm just a hygienist. Like, I do not know what I'm doing. I don't know how to run a business. I don't know any of this. And that, even though that was all true, what I did know is everything there needed to be known about CE, because got involved on my dental board. I started attending AADB. I was a credits and REB examiner. I was learning everything I needed to know to be able to help people relicense correctly, right?
Mm.
I still to this day feel like I know more than I am the expert in CE. If you need to know anything about CE, I can probably tell you.
Yeah.
Um, but like, I didn't trust in myself to do it. To like, when I started hiring employees, I was like, what if I can't pay their payroll? Like, this is terrifying. And I just got real scared and insecure. And we tried to sell the company. I think we probably had 20 different LOIs on the table from different really big companies, and not us trying to sell it. It was them coming to us.
Hmm.
And we finally took one, and it was March of 2020. We know what happened, or
Okay.
no, February, I'm sorry, of
Oh,
2020,
right before. Okay.
right before this happened, right before COVID. And we signed a deal, and they owned 51% of CE Zoom. So I no longer had any control. I did not realize what I was doing. I had been warned, I had been told. I didn't get it until, and I still was feeling very insecure. And these people came in and made me feel like they were going to save us. Because at that point, we were struggling. I mean, we had bootstrapped the whole company. We were barely paying ourselves. I had just got divorced. It was not a good time for me
Yeah.
and my partner. Like, we were just really struggling. So we sold it to try and get it to where it didn't fail. Whew. COVID hit. We didn't have access to our books, our bank, nothing. I didn't know how to run a company without visibility, which you can't, by the way. And they were kind of MIA because their business was not tech. It was very much brick and mortar, and they were panicking. They had to send employees home. Like they were trying to figure it out. And we had no communication. So like my first set of speakers, I paid them profit share for that first conference. Each of them walked home with about a $22,000 check because
Holy cow.
right. And I think that's the first time I've ever admitted it because that was my mistake. It's because I didn't even know what was in our bank account. I didn't know what I could pay people. And when I called these investors and told them about my idea for the webinar, you know what they told me? And they're in dental. I won't say who they are, but they were like, well, she said, oh, sunshine. People don't like webinars. They don't. And I was like, sunshine? Wait, what?
Just stop right there.
I'm like, and wait, what? Like, nobody can get CE right now. And she told me, no, I couldn't do it. This was a terrible idea. No one's going to do it. So I was like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't know you. I'm like, because I believed in it and I did it. Anyway, that was a total sidebar. But long story short, luckily, there was a big problem with our contract, and they ended up owing Kat and I a lot of money by December 31st because we had an earn-out basis and like a lot of money, and they couldn't pay us. And they had messed up the paperwork, actually. They said it was based off of gross. She meant to put based off of net.
Oops. Yeah.
That was a thank you, Jesus moment. And we were able to buy ourselves back out of, like, Kat and I were able to own CE Zoom again. But we started off 2021 negative $250,000 after the best year of our lives. Best year of our lives. We were negative. Yeah. And not only that, they moved us from digital, completely digital, everything to paper. Like everything, like she was invoicing through checks, like through paper, through mail.
Oh my gosh.
It was weird, but they set us back like that. So when she shipped me all 5 boxes that belonged to CE Zoom, like telling me how much we were paying employees and benefits and all that, my house burned down a week later and I lost all of it. So I had to call my employees and ask, how much are we paying you? I didn't even know.
Oh my gosh. Because
I had no visibility of our company for almost an entire year. Isn't that wild?
Yes, it is. So how did you work your way out? Or we don't have to talk about this if you don't want to, but how did you work your way out of that hole? Because
I quit.
That's scary.
That was one of my quitting moments.
Okay.
I'm like, all right, guys, I'm out. Like, I can't come back from this. Like, I have to rebuild my house. I got to make sure my kids are okay. We were displaced. I mean, we moved in with my boyfriend. It was fine. It was really hard. Yeah. But my team was like, no, we're not quitting. We got you. And we had a minority investor from right at the beginning. He didn't give us a lot, but it was enough to keep us rolling for a little while. I called him and was like, is there any way you've got something you can give us? Like, we're negative and we at least need to be broke even so we can keep growing. And he came and saved the day. And he's amazing. And I owe him the world. But he saved us, and like my employees, really, I took about a month sabbatical. Like, I was just gone, and everybody, Kat jumped in. And that's kind of when we transferred roles. When I came back, I was like, Kat, because the reason we sold was she's very tight with money, and you got to spend money to make money. And she physically couldn't do it. And so I took over the finances and running all the people and everything. And she went and worked with our dev teams. That's when it all changed, because that's why we sold. She couldn't take it anymore. Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, well, that's it's so reassuring, I guess, and inspiring that you have had some pretty significant setbacks and some really scary times, and you still figured it out. And you will. That's the thing. If you've got to drive and you aren't, you can't fail. You just got to keep going. Yeah. You just got to
instead of looking over here, you got to look over here and like just pivot. I've become a master of that and be like, okay, this isn't working out. Let me just try this thing.
And you're allowed to take a mental health break. Like I actually
Yes.
encourage, like if you're just overwhelmed, you're like, I don't know what to do, leave for
Yeah.
like a week. See, I'm not even kidding. And then it's like you can finally get clarity.
Well, and that's hard for us, right? Because you think that if your foot's not on the gas, you're going to lose it all or you're going to fall
Mm-hmm.
behind. But I have found that if I just, even a day, if I take one day and I don't get on my phone, I just feel so much better,
Yeah.
So for someone who is maybe in dentistry, who wants to start something of their own, you've already given some great advice, but what advice would you have for them if they're just starting with like no business experience?
I remember at the beginning, I was very scared to talk about my idea because it hadn't been done and I didn't want anyone to steal it. It's funny because
Hmm.
now I think back, I'm like, no one would have stole this. It's nobody wants to read rules and regulations. Um, but I really do advise like it's it's hard to say. Okay, it just depends on your idea. If it is easy to steal, obviously you're not going to want to talk to a bunch of people, but really ask, like survey in a way. If you don't have access to a database or whatever, ask your colleagues, ask your friends, ask anybody that would use it, their honest opinion, because starting something, you've got to know that there's actually a need and you're not the only one that wants it.
Hmm.
Um, but really, and then once you go for it, like those first 3-4 years, they suck.
Yeah. It's a
They really
grind.
suck. But if you don't put in the effort or the work, it's not going to work.
And that's how so many entrepreneurs kind of fizzle out, right? Is they just try it for a little bit and realize that, yeah, it sucks sometimes, it's hard, and then they just give up. So,
I mean, most companies don't turn their first profit for 5 years. You've got to be able to endure that. I mean, there's
yep.
people that, okay, as a woman, and I'm not a sexist person, but I will say it was very hard for us to get funding. And we still don't really have funding. Like it would be awesome to be like, okay, we got Series A and we're going to just go blow it up. But I honestly think having all those setbacks and not being able to get money is what helped us build the program so well too. But
Yeah.
like it was, if you can get some investors and stuff, it helps. I would think. I could
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah. Well, I just wonder if that's changed now, because it was like 10, no, more than 10 years ago that you
Nope,
started. I
it's
mean,
been about 10, yeah, 10
okay.
years.
I would hope that it would be different now, but I know it's challenging being a woman. I think it's challenging being a dental hygienist too, because we are used to minimizing ourselves. It's like a mindset thing.
Well, and I actually had to, this is so sad that have to say this. I had to remove the RDH behind my name in my emails
Really.
because
Hmm.
nobody took me seriously because the people I was reaching out to were dentists and I was needing them to believe in me. And so I finally, once I removed that, it was another dentist that actually told me he didn't take me serious. He thought it was a hobby
Huh.
because I was a hygienist. I'm
Did you
like,
see a difference
what?
then once you
Oh,
took
yeah.
that off? See, that's so sad. I mean, I kind of get it, but it's sad.
It's terrible. I've put it back
Yeah.
on now, but for a
Okay.
long, like for about 5 years, I had it off because not that I was embarrassed by it, guys. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I just needed to get some business, and that was the way to do it.
Well, and you were aware of the mindset of the time, right? And how
Mm-hmm.
people receive that. Before we wrap up, what new things do you have coming up with CE Zoom? Like anything new that you're excited about?
Yes. Okay. So we've always had this little brain. Well, we created her like in 2020, probably right around that time. Her name's Cece, CECE. We also have
Okay.
Ed, but we haven't displayed him yet. He's there. Don't worry. He just hasn't made his presence known yet. But we've had this brain and we've always struggled. The biggest hurdle we have at CE Zoom is helping people understand our tracker, that it is a true tracker and how unique it is and how much it actually helps people. But we finally think we figured out how to explain it. So our little CC, our little brain, is going to come to life in January. She's going to be our little navigation system because I've been having to drive to Dallas a lot lately, and the reason this is why, like, this is kind of my example of to why I think this will work and why I think it'll help people understand our tracker versus anybody else's. Cause I don't like talking bad about other companies ever.
Yeah.
I'm like, that they don't track, but it's like affecting our business. So I drive to Dallas a lot. I know the way. I've gone like probably 10 times in the last month. It's a 4.5 hour drive. I turn on my navigation every time because
Mhm.
there might be an accident. It might detour me. I use Waze. It tells me where the police officers are. It's like guiding me. And then sometimes it reroutes me. And that's how I look at CE Zoom. We are literally your navigation to get your license renewed. And we are telling you, hey, you need to take this exit and get your, opioid course. New law that just went into effect in certain states. Almost every state now has that, but like we're telling
Yeah.
you what's happening. Here, take this, you got to go take this course, come back on track, and we're like, hey, you only have a year left to do this. You still need this, this, and this. We're just your navigation. Like you turn it on and let us tell you exactly what you need and where you need to go. And then once your time to renew your license, you're ready and you make it to your destination, renew, and then we start it over. You go back home.
That's such a good analogy. So is this something that if someone signs up for CE Zoom, is this just like something that'll be automatic?
Yeah, so if you sign up for CE Zoom, it's free. And
Mhm.
that allows you to go and search all your courses or search for courses to find them. You can track or store. I'm sorry, you cannot track. You'll store all your certificates in there so they can be printed if you need them for an audit. But you're going to be set at basic, which is I have CC as she's driving a horse and carriage because you're living in the 19th century and still trying to keep all your papers like in your head and knowing what you have to have.
Mhm.
But when you upgrade, you get a car and she'll start showing you all the stops that you can make. And it's only $9 a month for the tracker or
Oh,
$69 a year.
okay.
And that's you get your navigation basically. If you upgrade to Elite, you get all the courses that go with it. And we have a lot of promotions that have been going on, but I'm going to tell you right now, we have a new marketing person that's like, no more promotions, guys. So if you hear a promotion, you better take it because we're not going to be
Okay.
offering a lot of those anymore. But it's
Okay.
$325 a year for that, but you're getting the tracker and you're getting every single course you have to renew your license.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
it's very, very affordable. I mean, just going to one dental conference is about $300 and you get 8 hours.
Well, and not to mention all the other expenses that go along with that too, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's going to be in January?
Well, we already have all of that. We're just bringing
Okay.
her to life. Like, right, we
Oh,
already
yeah,
have
yeah.
all of the packages, the tracker, Elite, but we're just bringing her to life and she's going to take you on a journey through your tracker or through your license renewal so you can make sure you stay compliant.
Awesome. Yeah, that's exciting. I love new stuff. I bet in your with tech, like you can just constantly be like upgrading and thinking of new
Oh,
things, especially with
it
like
never
AI.
stops. It never
Yeah, I
stops. And
bet.
by the way, anybody that reaches out, that was one of your questions I read, and I'm like, that's a good question. Anybody that reaches out with like, hey, I wish it did this or that, we listen to that and
Okay.
we update, like we are constantly updating. And the reason this is launching in January is because we're launching an entire new CE Zoom version 2. So it'll have way more features, way more. It'll just be a lot easier to use. I know our course search has kind of been crappy. There's a lot of stuff that we're not happy with, but we can only make our dev do what they understand. We have a whole new
Hmm.
dev team, and this version 2 is incredible. Like it's going to be a huge upgrade from version 1. So
And
we're
this has like been in partially at least in response to what people have requested
mm,
or feedback.
yep.
Yeah, that's great. I know I take feedback too. I love it. Like it just makes me better.
Yeah, you're not going to hurt my feelings
Yeah.
ever. Like I
Yeah.
want to hear it, the good, bad, the ugly, all of it because that's the only way we can make it better.
Mhm.
And that's why I personally send out a lot of our company emails because I want the feedback. I don't want
Yeah.
my tech support filtering it from me because they do. I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
need to hear it. Like it hurts my heart because I feel like it's an attack on me, but I'm like, oh, but I see their point.
Yeah.
So
Like
I
this
love
does
it.
need to change. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sarah. You just gave so many like little pearls of wisdom throughout, and I can't wait to for people to listen to it and learn from you. If
Yeah.
people want to reach out to you, what's the best place that they do that?
Um, you can email me. I'm Sarah, SARAH at cezoom.com.
Okay.
or you can go to cezoom.com and sign up.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and I'll put all that contact information in the CE Zoom website down in the show notes. And thank you again for your time today. And thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you next time.
Thanks, Stephanie.